What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Captain Trucker. Welcome back to the channel. It is good to see you all. Today's video, I would like to discuss something, it's kind of serious, but I want to bring some levity to this video, hopefully, without being offensive. But I do want to talk about some belief systems in the Philippines and the way many Filipinos have intertwined Eastern thought combined with with Christian religion and so forth, the way they're intertwined. You know, a lot of people in the East are big believers in karma, or gaba as they call it in Bisaya, I think. And it's just, the topic of it is kind of interesting because, you know, I've seen a lot of interesting things in this country and over the years. But before we get to that, by the way, I got new glasses. Not new glasses, these are my first glasses ever, okay? So without the glasses, I still have 20/20 vision, sometimes 20/15. But these glasses that I got, man, they're providing me with like eagle eye, bird's eye, whatever you call it, Superman vision. So I can see up to 20/10 now. Isn't that amazing? At times, not completely, but some things I can. I can now like read small print at like a distance. And so that's what I said to the eyeglass, the optometrist. I said, I want to have eye vision like a fighter pilot. And they said, okay, let's make it happen, Captain Trucker. And I said, right on, man. But I don't like the lens because I realized the lens is too big and I think it makes me look a bit goofy. On the subject of vanity and looks, you know, a guy on my channel recently left a funny comment and he goes, oh yeah, nice filter, by the way. And then in the other comment on another video, he goes, why do we have to see your face in every video? He's like, with all the beautiful scenery, I'm just so tired of seeing your face. It's just, this whole thing is just too egotistical and it's just, I'm out. He goes, I'm not watching anymore. And I'm just like, I didn't know what to say. I mean, it's kind of like, it's a reasonable observation. I mean, it is a vlog, and I guess the idea is that it's a personal connection of a human being. But I said to him, I said, look, I understand what you're saying. I can start just filming the scenery. I'll talk behind the camera, or better yet, I'll get like an AI voice in a script. That way we don't have to hear my voice or see my face or my new cool glasses, and I'll just film scenery. Would that be less egotistical from your perspective? And he didn't respond. But anyway, the filter thing, that's true. You know, I am in like my 40s, and you know, these GoPro cameras, man, they really pick up fine details. So I'm like, man, I don't want to see my wrinkles. And so there's like filters with like Filmora and stuff, and I can actually whiten your teeth too. It's pretty amazing. I was watching this other guy's channel, and for the longest time I thought he had like the whitest teeth in the world, and then I realized it was just a filter on Filmora. Anyway, we'll get past that. I just thought that was funny. Yeah, so, you know, the belief in karma, and I don't know what your spiritual beliefs are, but I believe in Christianity. I believe in the scriptures and compassion and forgiveness are really so critical for us, you know, living a good life, a life without bitterness and anger and hatred and all that sort of stuff. Because there's going to be people in life that hurt you, you know, and unfortunately we're probably going to hurt other people too in some way, shape, or form. I think that's kind of our nature as man. But something more interesting is, I think a lot of expats get mixed up because they don't realize that when they're coming to these cultures that, you know, many of these ancient cultures, like in the Philippines and maybe other parts of the world, they really do believe in, you know, their religion and stuff like karma and family values and, you know, stuff like that. And I think a lot of expats miss that. And they don't realize that when they're mingling and getting involved with these other cultures, sometimes there can be consequences. Sometimes there can be very strange, bizarre things that happen. Extremely disturbing things that are not funny. Bad things. And I don't want to get too specific and tell stories about stuff I've seen, but I've seen some messed up stuff. And I've tragedies and some bad things that have happened to people out here. And when I've asked, the Filipinos about it, some of their response is interesting, because they'll say something like, "Oh, that man, he made a bad business deal. He wasn't paying the people he worked with, so therefore that's why he walked down the street one day and that guy got mad at him in a bus and ran him over." And they'll say that was like his karma. And I'm like, wait, what? They say, yeah, that's what happens. You get hit by a bus or something. And I'm like, wow. So, people, and I'm not saying, that took a really weird turn. I'm saying that the belief system of some stuff, when you get into this Eastern stuff and karma, and there's some folklore out here, and I will say this, there is some strange things that are very foreign and very different, and a very different way of thinking that we're not accustomed to in like Western society, or even in Western Christianity. Okay, now, and this is something that people miss, because you have some Filipinos, and people in general, right? Some people can be highly vindictive, angry. They have hatred in them. They seek vengeance if somebody they perceive a threat, or somebody's wrong to them. And, those are generally very toxic people. And they believe they're doing the right thing, and they're on like a mission or something. They're filled with like vengeance and hatred. It's a pretty rough way to go. It's pretty bad. But, in these ancient cultures, make no mistake, that kind of energy is very toxic. And by that alone, can be dangerous. But also remember this, if you are, a believer in the scriptures and the Bible and stuff, like all that stuff with, whatever they might try to scare you with, and curses and stuff, that stopped at the cross, man. Like the power of the Son of God, it did have the authority to, there's no greater authority. So for believers, the good news is that you don't have to be scared. Now, once you go down the roads of fear, and if you get involved in that kind of mindset, it can be dangerous, because fear, the nature of it, and people that try to rule by fear, and people that try to instill fear in others, yes, they can be very toxic people, but they also have no authority either. And what's interesting is when you read the Bible, and this could be out of context, there's 365 references to the verse like, be not afraid, fear not. That theme runs, throughout the scriptures, and it's kind of true, because it's the fear factor that really keeps people, paralyzed, if you will, mentally, and prevents them from succeeding in life, prevents them from moving on, prevents them from doing things. But there's also people that thrive in exploiting that, okay, on different levels. And I've seen it, but there's something that I can't quite define. And there is a certain, the Philippines, it can be like a great place. It can be the happiest place on earth, like they say. And you often hear, lovely culture, nice people, friendly, great family values, and yes, all that's true. But if you're a foreigner getting involved and mingling with people, and you come here maybe as a sex tourist, or you don't really have like the best intentions, or you start meddling in foreign cultures, and you piss some people off, a lot of foreigners end up really disillusioned and angry, and they complain a lot, and they're entitled, and they don't understand why they're so unhappy. And I don't think some of the men realize here what they're getting into, and that when you mess around in these cultures, that Filipinos really believe with a deep, deep conviction what they believe. More so maybe than some Americans and Europeans, where they sort of have this, I don't know what the word is, a more superficial spiritual outlook, okay? Because, you know, we think we can explain everything with science and stuff, and it's just like, oh, I don't believe in that. You know, that's ridiculous folklore. That's absurd. That would never happen. You can't. But I'll say this: I've seen some really strange stuff, and I don't want to get into it in this video because it might sound a little bit, well, I don't know. Maybe we will in another video. I fully believe that there is, you know, there's obviously stuff we can't explain, and you know, there's dark sides to any place, to any people. But one thing I've learned is if you look for it, if you indulge it, and if you indulge people who are fixated on hatred and whatever, and they're angry people, and it's a bad, you don't want to do that, you know? You can't give weight to that kind of stuff. And you know, as my mom used to say, like, don't look for trouble, right? You don't open the doors to that kind of stuff. Because I think people underestimate, you know, the powers of the spiritual warfare you know, myself and many people believe that we're in. You know, we're wrestling against principalities from higher places and so forth. You know, I think Paul said that. I paraphrased that, but you get the idea. Okay, so when you hear people talk about karma in a vengeful way, like they're the ones putting karma on people, that's not the way it works. Karma is meant to balance out stuff. It's not something that people impose on another person, like, oh, you know, you piss me off, karma will find you. Those are just angry people that are vindictive. Okay, that's different. Still toxic people, but again, you can't be afraid of, you know, people that are toxic and you know, just people that stir up drama. It's just, I don't know, it's a really crappy way to go, you know. But they say, you know, we think we're so advanced as a society, especially in the West, that we kind of just dismiss things, you know, like, oh yeah, we don't believe that. But I mean, like, when you really break down, like, who are we? You know, we think we can explain everything with like psychobabble. And if you start talking about some of this stuff, and if you're not successful, if you don't have any degree of audience, or you don't have a good net worth, or built a house, or have a good career, you know, they're going to say you're some nut. Once you are successful and you talk about it, they're like, okay, well, I guess we'll listen to them now. They won't label you then. But anyway, my point is that they've tried to dismiss in the West a lot of the belief system under the guise of science and psychology, and I call it dime store psychology and psychiatry and all that garbage, because it largely is garbage. It's become just a money-making industry to where they've doped up 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people in the U.S. population on these meds just to keep them numb, just to, you know, mostly stress from a consumer-driven culture, and people are stressed out and entitled, and they're confused. Don't get me wrong, America's a great place, lovely place, definitely a land of opportunity, but there, you know, there's stuff going on that's not good. But it's being addressed in the wrong way, because even in that whole field, they've taken out any kind of spiritual element of God, of like, and people don't really like to talk about that stuff for some reason. Like, even on vlogs, like, you can't really, they just like, oh, don't, you know, they dismiss that whole thing, like, oh, I don't want to hear about religious stuff. Like, people are so quick to dismiss that I find interesting, you know? Like, you're allowed, you could talk about any other thing under the sun, but nothing like real or something, you know? It's like, anyway, my point is I had a point here. I had a few points. Don't look for trouble. Don't mess around with people that are obsessed with weird things. Because another thing I've learned is that obsessions in general are a red flag, okay? In different ways. For instance, some foreigners, you hear stories about men, he sort of just goes along with it or something, but it's like, when you're coming, this world's not run on money. And that's the other thing that we're missing as expats, is that there's a bigger thing going on. Like, the money only goes so far, right? Because this world is not controlled by money, okay? Let that sink in for a second. And like I said, in these more ancient cultures, the belief system is deeper, okay? So not all these relationships are merely transactional, you know, like that you hear about a lot on vlogs and stuff. And I think we're missing a greater point of where people are failing out here, why people become unhappy and complain, because I don't think they realize that they're not adapting to the culture. Like, they have a maybe in some ways a different belief system, such as being entitled with money. Like, they're going to have a happy life and do whatever they want and just buy stuff and everything's going to be okay. But that's not the way it works. You know, anyway, I'm kind of rambling now. I'll let you guys know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you like my new glasses. It's Captain Trucker. You guys be good, okay? Stay safe out there. I got my room here. I got a little beach out there. Do you guys see the beach? Isn't that nice? All right. Leave a comment. You all take care. Bye-bye.